The old Mayer Airport and the old hangar was right where Texas Roadhouse was, and the shopping center was a big flat plateau on top of the big plateau, and they'd fly the airplanes off the back hillside, right off the edge of the mountain. Same with here. Tonight, me and Isaac raced electric scooters up and down here, just like old times. They would have flew airplanes up and down here. Old drag strip. This was one of the first houses in Kerwin Heights, the old farm. Ironically enough, this was where Bob Evans was. Bob Evans was, well, down on the farm. This was a farm. And then up here was actually Kerwin Heights. And the mill houses down here that were workers for the mills and the train lines below. So Mayer Airport was up here. Mayer Airfield, founded in 1919 up until about the 1950s when Great Southern Shopping Center came in. Kerwin Heights, the houses, and the mill row worker houses for the mill. There's a vanadium plant, a train line, coal refinery, brickyard, Mayer Brickyard. If they say if you find one of Mayer's old bricks with his name on it, it's a piece of history, and you'll find his ghost down there at the old train line. It's cut off here, but Mayer Street runs down here. That's where his old store and headquarters was, down at the old train line. You see, you go down there at midnight during a full moon, you'll see Mr. Mayer's ghost down there. Mr. C.P. Mayer Airfield in Kerwin Heights. This is where the sun comes up over Rock Hill Mountain Circle, and McLaughlin Run Creek flows down here through Collier's Run, and then over the train line bridge down here into Chartiers Creek, which goes down through McKees Rocks, the Ohio River, down to Neville Island, and up to Fort Pitt, man. This is Kerwin Heights. John Nighthawk, president and founder of the Kerwin Heights Historical Society. And this is the main road, Washington Pike, that runs from Bridgeville to Carnegie. And among the first houses here were the old houses along Washington Pike here. Some of my great-grandmother's houses were here. Now home to the pretzel factory and the Texas Roadhouse. That actually says Mayer on top of there, so that they knew the land right there. That's Mayer Airfield. Mayer. Just like Mayer Street goes down to Mayer Street. He had his headquarters. And Mr. Mayer was the guy that got the federal grants to develop all this land. Now the name Kerwin Heights actually comes from the Kerrs and the Winstein families. There was an old mansion up here in Winstein Road. This is Winstein, part of Kerwin Heights. This was the Kerrs family, part of Kerwin Heights. And my great-great-great-grandmother was actually part of the Horriman family, and the Winstein family would have been my second or third great cousins. We were all cousins down here in Kerwin Heights. And we'll see here. This here is the back of... This is the old Lewis house. That's the Kerwin Heights Fire Department. But in that days, the old fire department was actually down here on the corner of Mayer Street. But that's the old Lewis house. Mark Lewis's dad, Ted Lewis. They're a family that's been here for over 100 years. And down below that is my sister's house, Gray Street. And where's my place here? Those are the two houses. That's my sister's house. Doug's house wasn't built yet. It was just a farm. And it's really hard to see my house on here. That house is demolished. That's my house right there. It's really hard to see, but it's there, right there under my fingernail. This house, which is now the medical center, is demolished, and that's my house behind it. My house was nearly there. There was a farm back here behind my house. My house was a farm. Dolores, Indiana's Grandma Rose. And then that's Cookie's house. And these three houses, Shelb's, Eric, and Mike's house now, they were all built identical. They're all mirrors. Same with John the Baker's house and these houses here. They're all mirrored. There's Sandy's house. That's my grandma's house, and my grandma's sister's house, and my great-grandma's house, Lola. His family would have been from the Winstein families. And they would have been cousins, distant cousins. But that's the name of Kerwin Heights. Comes from the Kerrs family and the Winstein family. So one of the first families to settle here and build these houses. The Kerwin Heights up above the mill. Kerwin Heights. That's the history of Kerwin Heights in a nutshell. And Mr. Mayer would have got these grants to build these in 1903 is when this mill started, the primitive mill, and they built onto it over the decades. but now it was known as the Kerwin Heights Industrial Park down there at Mayor Street. Legend has it you could see his ghost down there at the old train line crossroads at midnight or during a full moon. And that's the legend of the ghost of Mr. Mayor, Mayor Airfield. Mr. Mayor, Casper P. Mayor, he was like the founding father of Kerwin Heights. And then you have the Kerrs and Winstein families who really kind of settled and had a lot of these houses built. A lot of these houses were built later in the 1930s down here in the Heights for the mill workers, while the houses up here were mainly for the bosses, or some of the older houses built in the earlier 1900s or even late 1800s. This house here is still here today, next to Dunkin' Donuts. This is one of the oldest houses. It was built on Washington Pike in the 1800s, before Kerwin Heights or the mill was ever existed. But Mr. Mayor began developing this in 1903. Airport came around 1919. A lot of these houses were built in the early 1900s. Some of the older ones along Washington Pike. There's an old mansion here, which Lewis knows more about the history of this part of Kerwin Heights than I do. But my family's from here, the Winstein family and the Kerrs family, my great-great-grandma's house, and everything, man. That's the history of Kerwin Heights in a nutshell.